So yeah, the book. Yeah, we are actually short of this book, and we used to have a lot, but I don't know what happened.
Everybody.
Just
Yeah, everybody just took it.
because we had a new version of it, which is a gray one. I think a gray, right?
Yeah, but it's
No,
not as
It's
accurate
not
as
as
this.
no,
Oh,
and it all disappeared. So
it all disappeared. Okay.
No, I don't think we can print it. I think we have to order it from
yeah, you
Taiwan.
have to order.
It's copyrighted. You can't
Oh,
print
okay,
this.
yeah, it makes makes sense, right? Okay, so anyway, yeah, it cost 140 yuan. Okay, in Taiwan anyway. Okay, so so to make it easy, we're doing part 3, okay, which is it talks about what they say is the name of it. It's called the heritage. Yeah, the heritage of Tao. Okay, part 3. No, part of the introduction. Okay, part 3 of the introduction or something like that. Okay. So anyway, this is a pretty handy book to have, only because it does give you some answers, if you will, to questions that are normally posed when we have received the Tao, and also we're trying to cultivate the Tao. Okay. Some of it gets a little bit technical beyond what we would normally have learned at the beginning. So some parts you probably can skip over and all that stuff. But the point is that it does have general. It's more like a frequently asked questions type thing, like a frequently asked questions. Okay, so to continue, I have already done several questions, and so therefore I'm continuing the questions. Okay, for this part 3, and this one is question 50. Okay, so I'll try to do like 50 through 53 or something like that. Okay, since we don't have the book, I'm going to just read it, and then I'll ask Jean, why don't you read it? This one short, 50.
To receive 10 Tao is good, but won't worshiping God be superstitious? To worship God is to show one's sincerity. We always pay respect to all who have helped us. God descended 10 Tao to depict the truth in oneness. With this revelation, mankind knows that oneness is the beginning of everything, and God is the only Lord who created the cosmos. We name God as Wu Ji Lao Mu because God is the mother of our souls, as well as the origin of our body. Once a man is born, he loses his true self and forgets where he comes from. As one is lost, he suffers the tragedy of going through the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth in eternity. Since Lao Mu constantly thinks of us, she descended 10 Tao to bring salvation to mankind. 10 Tao is the lighted road for us to follow and restore our true self. How could one be arrogant when he tries to receive 10 Tao, which brings salvation to his life and true self? To worship God is to express gratefulness and sincerity in receiving 10 Tao. How could it be regarded as superstition?
Thank you, Jean. Yeah, so so the question first, the question that's posed is that, even though, regardless of whether it's 10 Tao or not, but this one's particular to the point, to talking about, yes, receiving the Tao is good, okay, but isn't worshiping anything that you can't see, hear, or touch somewhat superstitious? Okay, so this can actually apply to anything that you besides 10 Tao. It could be applying to anything, like in terms of worship, or I don't know, some spirit that you know or don't know or whatever. Okay, so the question that's posed is, is it a form of superstition when you begin to like worship, okay, however type of worship you have, something that you cannot see, hear, or touch? Any thoughts? Anyone?
See, I think most people have a problem of differentiating between Buddha nature and soul, or the soul. So when you say when a person is doing so, but you can't see it, you can't touch it. So what would you say to the person who's struggling to understand that?
Okay. Well, yeah, especially in today's world where we do have a reliance on science, okay? Because science is very I guess you could say, universal in the sense that everyone can apply science to whatever they're doing and be able to get either a negative result or a positive result. Doesn't matter what kind of result. So the point is that with science, you have a physical means to be able to arrive at what you consider will be a conclusion based on the observations that you make. Okay, so science requires us to test a theory or whatever, and then look at its observations or derive from its observations a conclusion. Okay, so that is very very universal in the sense that anybody can do it, and it's also very fixed. Okay, you can see it, you can touch it, etc. Okay, so in terms of, however, God, if you will, well, God we say is spiritual. All right, so then to what extent then we still worship it and still think it's not any form of superstition? Okay, so that's the question that's very hard, that actually science cannot really answer. Okay, because what this form of belief is more than is basically more than that which is physical. So therefore, this belief in a way is dependent upon each individual. So that means that not everyone will necessarily agree with what you believe or whatever. Okay, so the thing is that, so what makes us want to believe in something that is not physical? Okay, because if you look at life itself, you will see that there are things that are not physical that actually happens. Okay, for example, when we talk about emotions, all right, we say, oh, okay, we are human and we have a brain, and so therefore something in the brain causes us to have emotions. Okay, but yet emotions is not something that we can define in science. It's very much like saying, I don't know if you've seen the movie called okay. Oh, okay, that's good, that's good. Yeah, if you've seen the movie, Contact? Jodie Foster. You know, it was the movie was done many years ago by it was a movie made from a book from Carl Sagan. He talks about, you know, being able to contact aliens. okay, that one, remember? Contact with the big telescopes and all that stuff? Yeah, and one of the questions that in the movie was asked was that when she was talking to her former boyfriend, so to speak, about, you know, things that are abstract or physical, because he asked her, you know, because she was saying, you know, they asked her, do you believe in God? She goes, probably not, most likely not. Okay, but then, you know, in the existence of God, okay, and then later on he then asked her, well, God is something that you can't see, touch, and hear, etc. That's true, and that's how she expresses it that way. But then he asked her, well, do you love your father? And she goes, or your parents? And she goes, yeah, of course I love them. He goes, well, how do you prove that you love them? You know, how do you define the love? What is called love? Okay, so there are certain aspects of our own lives that does require us to have something that's beyond what science can provide. Okay, so in the case of this down here, it says that from the answers, by the way, are all those expounded by Holy Teacher. Okay, and basically he replies by saying that, well, it really isn't a question of you believing or not, in the sense of how we define belief, but rather the fact that it is a form of just an expression that you have for appreciation. So that's why, to start off, she goes, to worship God is to show one's sincerity. So in other words, given the fact that we ourselves don't think, or we don't know, most people don't know that we have what we call a Buddha nature, okay, a Buddha nature or a spiritual nature, okay. The fact that we don't know that makes us, yes, not believe. But if we do realize that we do have a spiritual nature, in that case, the idea of having the spiritual nature and knowing its source, its origin, okay, makes us understand or appreciate the fact that, yeah, it is this Buddha nature that makes us alive. Okay, because after all, a corpse and a living person, the only difference is that one's animated and one's not. One's alive and one's not. Okay, so but it is this Buddha nature that makes us alive. And so therefore, and the fact that we have this Buddha nature, you can basically push, I guess you could say, conclude from that the fact that there is somewhere that this Buddha nature comes from. Okay, and so therefore this Buddha nature, according to here, is called, the source of that Buddha nature is what Holy Teachers calls Uji Laomu, which means the formless, formless mother. Okay, that's the best translation, I guess, one way to translate it. Okay, so therefore, it is the source of all our Buddha nature, if you will. Okay, and so therefore, to have an appreciation or to understand that it is this Buddha nature that makes us alive, makes us, in a way, understand that we need to be grateful. And to be grateful just means the fact that, yeah, how you express your gratitude is then what some people will call, oh, that's your worship, that's your belief, etc. Okay, so therefore, it is in itself, belief or worship is really no different than just wanting to what? Show appreciation for something. Okay, and so in that sense, our appreciation, which is we are sincerely appreciative of the fact that, yeah, we have this Buddha nature, and that it is that which gives us or makes us alive. Okay, and so therefore, how we express it, okay, sure. On the one hand, other people who don't realize it may call it superstition or whatever, but in reality, there's nothing more than just what? A sense of appreciation, a sincere appreciation for what we have, or somebody giving you something that you appreciate. That is all. So therefore, it is not in a way superstitious, okay? Because after all, it's just a way of expressing your gratitude, nothing more than that. Okay. Now, the second question basically relates to the first question in a sense, okay? And I'll get to that. Oh, we got it.
No.
No. Okay.
She
Okay.
can't find that.
Okay, all right, so let me, the second one's kind of very short, so let me just briefly go through it, okay? The question that's posed is, can one worship God and pray for blessings? Okay, so the answer is this. If one worships God with the intent to pray for blessings, one must prevent oneself from making mistakes and repent one's sins. Otherwise, he or she will be punished despite all his prayers. However, a practitioner of Tao places emphasis on practicing Tao and places little importance on praying for blessings. In history, many kings and emperors were greatly blessed, and where are they now? This is why the fifth patriarch of Tian Tao said, "The mortal knows only to pray for blessings, but never ponders that if the true self is lost, what blessings is there to pray for?" Okay, so the second way poses the fact that, yeah, okay, worshiping God is not superstitious. Okay, so fine. And we know, and worshiping God, as how we define God, is that fact that, yeah, it is all powerful, blah, 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 everything, right? Okay, so given that, should we or can we request from God favors? You know, blessings, same thing as like favors. You have to get a favor, right? Okay, so because after all, everyone's life, you know, in this particular life, we all have our ups and downs, and there are certain situations we would like to be better than what it is now. So therefore, can we ask for favors? Okay, so now, in fact, today, if you go to many temples, I guess any form of temple, any form of public temples, you do see a lot of people burning incense, bowing, or worshiping, whatever, right? Okay, and there are many different deities or gods. Okay, and if you could listen or eardrop or on what they are thinking or praying for, almost all, not most, almost all of it will always be for what? Favors. You know, a form of favor, we call it. Okay. No go, right?
Just not the chapter.
Okay, all right. No problem. Okay, so therefore, it's on things that are usually what we call favors, or you know, some, or even sometimes we say, even if it's just not for favors, you'll hear people negotiate or bargain with the gods. Okay, now why do I say that, bargain? Usually means the fact that he goes, yeah, I do want this favor, And in return, this is what I will do. I'll either burn more incense, I'll either do more good deeds or whatever. So that's what I mean by negotiating and bargaining. Okay, so you're bargaining still nevertheless for a favor. Okay, and again, okay, so the question then comes down, is it okay to do that? Okay, now according to the answers here, yes, you can do that. There, you can, but there is a catch. And what is the catch? One must prevent oneself from making mistakes and repent one's sins. Otherwise, he or she will be punished despite all his or her prayers. Okay, now that's a kind of a part that most people, it's like the fine print on a contract that you don't usually read or you usually miss. Okay. Yes, it is true that one can request for favors from the saints and the Buddhas. Okay, but especially in our Tian Dao where we have all these icons, you see, we have all these Buddhas and saints, right? We can request for that. However, there is a catch to that, or there's a clause attached to that favor. And that favor, that clause is to say that you need to what? Transform yourself for the better. Okay, because if someone is just asking for favors and not have to repay anything in return, then it's no different than saying, okay, I can do anything I want. I don't have to change who I am. I can still, do good or bad. Okay, right? Because let's face it, some people request from their own quote saints or spirits for good or bad things we don't know. But of course, in the case of the Tian Dao, we're asking for positive aspects, okay? But still, we still need to change. And why is that? Do we know why is it that why is it, first of all, there's this clause that says, yeah, you can have this favor, but these are the conditions. Why, does anybody have any idea why is it that there's conditions attached?
To prevent us from doing the wrong things again.
Yeah, right. Again, okay, that's true. Yeah, but remember, when we're asking a favor, usually we're asking for something that's positive, right? It's not to say, okay, yeah, help me rob the bank, or help me, or something like that. No, it's not that. It's usually saying that, oh, okay, I'm having some difficulty at work or whatever, or I had this illness, help me get better. Usually it's that, right? It's always for the positive. It's not for the negative aspects. Okay. So given that you asking for the positive, of course, Buddhists and saints are very compassionate, merciful. They have the, I guess you could say, I don't want to say the power to grant you that favor. Okay. They have the ability to influence events that will have outcomes that are favorable to you. That's true. Okay. But why is it that they also ask something in return?
Because we have karma, and that's a way to really help ourselves.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's the crux of the matter. Is the fact that we do have karma. Okay. Because when we're asking for favors, that's true. What you have to first ask yourself, why do you need to ask for that favor? Because you feel uncomfortable. You want to change, right? But you also have to understand, why is it that you're in that situation in the first place? Why are you in that situation in the first place? Why is it because, you could say you are very, like let's take the example, like you got sick. Okay. On the one hand, you can say, yeah, I'm sick because, I was very careless, when it was windy and cold outside, I went outside, jogging without my sweatsuit, I caught a cold. Okay, that's part of it too. But what did the Buddhists and saints have always told us before? That our situations are what we are now. The condition in which that we find ourselves now is because of what? Our past, according to the Buddha, right? You are what you are today based on your past, and what you will become tomorrow will be based on what you are today. Okay, so therefore, it is your karma that in a way is influencing the condition that you are in now. Okay, so therefore, if it is your karma that's influencing them, okay, now you want to change your karma, right? Because you're asking for favors to try to offset that karma. Offset it, because let's say you're sick because, your karma, and you want to get well and not be sick. Okay, but the karma hasn't taken its course yet, right? Okay, so therefore, first of all, number one, in our in the Tao, Buddhists and saints themselves says what? They cannot take away your karma, but they can only influence your karma. Okay, but by influence I mean this. It means the fact that Buddha saints said that if you are willing to perform good merits or generate merits, the Buddhists can take your merits and use it as a form of a negotiating tool, if you will, with your debtors, those who you are in debt with, hence your bad karma, negative karma. Okay, so, but they themselves do not have the power or the authority, if you will, not really the power, but more the authority to take away your karma. Because your karma is your own. Okay, because if we all can say, oh, have all the saints and Buddhists take away all our bad karma, then all you have to do is believe and you can do whatever you want, right? But there are consequences, so therefore they cannot do that. So therefore, when you do ask for that favor, okay, the clause, there's a condition because of the fact that if your condition is based on your karma, what you're trying to do is what? Influencing the karma so that it doesn't mature. Let's put it that way. The karma the karma never gets resolved, so to speak. So when we ask for favors, we are doing nothing more than to what? Suspend or delay the karma. Okay, so you're delaying the karma, okay, but the karma is still there. You're just delaying or trying to affect it in a way such that it does not affect you as much, okay. And the only way it can do that is the fact that, yeah, if you can perform the merits to try to offset some of it, okay, because some karmas, there is no negotiation. Some karmas, unfortunately. Some karmas, yes, there is negotiation. There's room for negotiation. Let's put it that way. Okay. So therefore, for those who does have the room for negotiation, then yes, by using your own your own merits, only then can you influence your own karma. So that's why there's that condition. Because if you don't change, okay, then that means the fact that, okay, Buddha, let's say, for the sake of it, decided just to influence it now. So it is delayed, your karma. But you don't change. So when you don't change, you also what? Not only are you influenced by your past karma, but also at the same time, we are generating karma, by the way. Right? You realize that, right? Because after all, where did the first karma came about in the first place? It has to be generated, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have your past karma. Where did your past karma come from? Well, before. You can say, oh, it's before. You can go away. It's a big circle. Because somewhere along the line, it was generated. That karma was created. Okay. So the point is that if you don't delay it, okay, if you just delay it but don't change, here's what it says. Otherwise, he will be punished despite all his prayers. Well, it's not really punished. Heaven doesn't really punish us. Heaven just allows the karma to come into effect. That is all. Heaven doesn't say, oh, okay, you're really bad, I'm going to strike you with lightning or whatever. No. Rather, the fact that heaven just says, whatever you do, there will be consequences of your generated karma. Okay, there are consequences. And the consequences will just let it come about. Okay, now, you may think, oh, okay, well, wait, the karma, the consequence of my karma will be 10 lives from now, 2 lives from now, whatever. Well, yes and no. Okay, you can't think of it that way. Okay, there's a reason why. Okay, and that has to do with actually question number 53. But I'll get to that later. Okay, so the point is that you can't do that. The reason why is because karmas, even though they have their own, I'll call it schedule for now, their own schedule when events happen, okay, but it's more really not, but the schedule is very flexible because of the fact that it depends on various conditions that allow the karma to take place.
Yeah, it's not fixed.
Yeah, so it's not fixed. But normally, if you look at it from a grand scheme of things, in order to take the whole thing, you say, oh yeah, okay, you create this karma in this life, next life, in this particular life, it'll happen, or whatever. it would normally be that if you follow what we call the normal trend or the normal way things happen. Okay, but so there is in a way a little like a schedule, but that schedule is flexible, so things can move about. Okay, and that's again would be as when we talk about question 53. So the point is this: is that yes, it's okay for us to ask for favors from Buddhas and saints. Okay, but you then must make what? A commitment to what? Change, number one, and also to what?
Do what you said you're going to do.
Well, not only do what you can think what you're gonna do, you have to do things that are what? Good, in the sense that it has to be positive. Yeah, because after all, it relies upon your commitment to create these or generate these positive merits, if you will, okay, to in a way help Buddha offset your negative conditions right now. Okay. So therefore, now, so you need to make a change, is what it comes down to. And it's a positive change that you have to make. Okay. So that's very important when we ask for favors, because, let's say, sometimes we do find ourselves in a position where we need to ask for favors. Okay. But when we do that, it's very important for us to keep that in mind. That asking for favors is not a one-way negotiation. It's a two-way. Okay. All right. Now, having said all that, it continues saying what? A practitioner of Tao places emphasis on practicing Tao and places little importance on praying for blessings. Okay. That's even more important than asking for favors. In fact, for us as cultivators, it is more important for us to not really think about or ask for favors. Rather, just concentrate or focus on your cultivation. The reason why is this: because if you are cultivating, you are automatically what? Trying to generate positive merit. And you don't need to ask the Buddha to say, okay, I have this positive merit, can you please try to compensate for my negative karma, past karma? You don't need to do that. Because the more positive merit that you have, automatically, it will try to compensate for your negative karma. Okay, so therefore now, Buddhists actually use that also. Okay, because even though we live our lives right now, we may not actually know or be aware of the fact that, Buddhists are watching over us. Because after having received the blessing or the 10 Tao, we do have a certain advantage that the commoner or the normal person who has not received Tao has. And that is the fact that we do have the, you could say, the chaperoning by the saints and Buddhas for us. Okay, so therefore, the fact that when we can just focus on our cultivation, generate positive merit, etc., Buddhists will naturally be able to use that without your wanting or not to try to offset your karmas. So that is why in certain cases, and it's not every case, in certain cases, if you look back on your life, okay, on your life after you receive the blessing, the 10, the Tao, etc., you may find it sometimes very smooth, okay, and then on the opposite, on the flip side, very hard. Okay, there's the flip side. But for those who are smooth, it's because of the fact that they will find that without knowing it, heaven has already tried to what? Smooth out your future based on the fact that you're cultivating, doing a lot of cultivation, you're creating a lot of positive merit, and they are already using that to try to offset any negative karma that you have. Okay. Now, what happens when you don't have enough merit or enough positive merit to offset those things? That's when we have the flip side, where things actually become very rough also. Okay. So, important thing here is to say is that as practitioners or cultivators, we should emphasize more on not for asking favors, but rather the fact that just focus on your own cultivation. Because when you can do that, heaven will automatically try to make things easier for you in the future, to try to negate or compensate for any negative karma that you have. Okay? Any questions or anything like that? Nope? Okay, so that sense. Okay,
I want to know.
sure.
I want to definitely get a copy of the book because one thing is dealing with the fundamental issue of the vows and what we do on our daily basis. So, you know, in the daily, you know, we work and we try to help others and we try to do good. So the issue of saying that we negotiate with God for prayer favors or something like that is a very delicate issue.
Well, yeah, but
Okay,
the-
I mean, it should be a certain amount of merit of goodness that exists within our daily work. But meanwhile, I want to make sure I get a copy of that book. So,
well, yeah, once we get the copies, yeah, we don't have it, that's the problem, we don't have any right now.
is
We have
there a
to
way
order
to
it.
order it from them, or
No, we have to order from Taiwan, I
you
think.
have to order it from
Yeah,
Taiwan?
I think so. We got it from Taiwan last time?
You can just
Yeah.
Yeah.
print here.
Yeah, we can't do print because it's
It's
copyrighted, so.
Yeah, I understand it's
Yeah.
copyrighted, but
So,
you know.
anyway, but like I said, we used to have a lot, now it's all gone, but we're getting some more. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, again, the most important, I guess, takeaway from this is the fact that, yes, we can ask for favors, but rather, it is better instead to focus on your own cultivation. Okay, so that's the takeaway. Okay, so the next question is somewhat off track a little bit, but I don't know why it's put it in here, but anyway, it's, again, I'll read it, it's short, okay. The question is there any reason why we use the left hand to offer incense and always place the first incense in the middle? You know how you've seen how we do incense, right? You always, what? The first one's always in the middle, right? Just like when we're doing the bows sometimes, okay? And then also we always use our left hand, okay? So, this is more, it's not to say it's not important, but it's a question, okay? So here, the left hand symbolizes kindness and would not hold knives or hit others. Okay, that's the translation, okay? That is why we use the left hand to offer incense. We always place the first incense in the middle. The doctrine of Ten Tao is to achieve center, quote-unquote center, and quote-unquote oneness. Center means not to bend or lean, or not leaning, or lean, the same thing. Okay. Oneness means there is only one truth and nothing else. Center and oneness represent the essence of Tao. To place the first incense in the middle during the incense offering symbolizes the establishment of the essence of Tao. Center could also mean oneself, because besides heaven and earth, mankind is the greatest. All matters and lives between heaven and earth are subject to mankind's governing. Thus one becomes the center wherever he goes. Okay, and the example used here is, for example, if one stands east of the city is in the west. However, if one stands north of the city is in the south. South, if one stands south of the city is in the north. The city remains stationary while its relative orientation changes. The reason the orientation changes is because one has moved. That is why no one shall feel that he is insignificant. Okay, it's kind of a little bit disjointed, but okay. You see us when we offer incense, yeah. There's the one who probably use the left hand, not the right hand. Okay. Some people like to say, yeah, because most of us are right-handed. Okay, that's the majority of the population, I'm pretty sure. Okay, and so therefore, being right-handed is the most common hand used to do a lot of things, everything, pretty much everything. Okay, so therefore, good or bad doesn't matter, good or bad. Okay, so therefore, the left hand is more the guy who's like the little guy who's not involved with our big right hand. Okay, so that's what we use. Other people like to say the fact that, and it's not in this book, to say that the left hand is closer to your heart because our heart happens to be on the left side of our chest, or leaning towards the left side of our chest from the center. Okay. Although I've heard that there are cases that people have hearts on the right side too, right?
That's very rare.
Very rare, very rare. Okay. But anyway, the point is this. Let's face it, also there are left-handed people who are left-handed, right? Okay. But then this is just a form, okay? Again, the whole idea is to say that we offer incense, we offer to the left hand because, yeah, it is the one that has the lesser evil, we'll put it that way. And the fact that we do it in the center, we always put the first incense in the center, or whatever we start, we always start with the center, is because it is to remind us the fact that, what? We also should be centered. Okay. The use of the example of the city to the west or north, west, east, and then north and south, is just to say the fact that centering means the fact that if you're centered, it applies in your life in the sense that when we cultivate the Tao, etc., we also must be centered. Okay? Meaning the fact that we don't try to deviate to either extreme. We don't deviate to either. That's why there's a saying that says what? The doctrine of mean, or in the doctrine of mean, it talks about the fact that what? We have to what? Stay centered. In fact, it's one of the 15 rules of
不一，
yeah,
不偏不倚位之中。
yeah, but, right. So in other words, not to go to the left or the right, but stay in the center. Okay, in fact, in our 15, one of the 15 四条不规 the rules and regulations, what? Number 4 is it? Or what?
Number 3.
Number 3? 哦 okay, 斋庄重正 Yeah, 对 number 3, that's number 3, yeah. To what? Be centered. Meaning the fact that, like our normal lives, just as in our cultivation, we should also what? Try to stay centered. Meaning the fact that we don't go to either extreme of cultivation. Because after all, in cultivation, you could actually go to very large extremes. Take the Buddha. What did he do when he was cultivating or when he was practicing? Right. He only ate, the way he fasted was what? He only ate what? Sesame seeds, supposedly? Okay. And then when he sleeps, he has to sleep on a bed of nails or something like that. Okay. So in a way, you're going to extremes. And in fact, it is he himself who came to the realization that, hey, you know what? That's all no good. Because after all, when he drank the rice milk from the shepherd girl, right? He came to a realization. You know, he said, first of all, you know, you should be fasting like the way I'm doing it, and in fact, because otherwise you'll be dead. You'll be dead, and you being dead doesn't help you in your cultivation because you're dead. You can't cultivate anymore. Okay, so the fact is that you need to still be alive to cultivate. Okay, and so therefore you don't go to either extreme. Same thing in terms of what? If you think about before he went out to cultivate, he himself lived a princely life, right? He was, according to him, he says, very delicately treated.
Very materialistic life.
In other words, he had anything he wanted.
Yeah, he's oppressed.
Very
what he wants.
materialistic. So therefore, that's also one extreme.
Right.
So the idea is to what? Stay centered.
But that's external. There's also internal.
Right.
Internal means be at one with our Buddha nature.
Right.
And
Because
also know what they call extreme views.
yeah. So that's why in Buddhism we have what? The first of the Eightfold Paths is
Yeah.
what?
Proper view.
Proper view.
Proper view
Right.
understanding.
So therefore, it is only by having the proper view understanding can it allow you to properly can follow or perform the next 7 steps. Next 7 steps of the Eightfold Path. Okay? Because if you deviate already or you are not proper in your first view, as you begin to progress, you deviate further and further. You can deviate further and further from what is the true path. Okay? So that's why being centered helps us stay grounded, so to speak. Okay? Right? So, okay, any questions on this part? Okay. Again, this is just why you use your left hand, why you center. Okay. So, okay. Then the next one is this, which is again has to relate to the previous one, which is pray for blessing and all that stuff. Okay. I guess I'll still read it. Okay. All right. Why is it so common that whenever a person receives Tian Dao or the Dao, he or she dedicates him or herself at the beginning, but eventually becomes lax? Anybody relates to this question?
Yeah, all of us.
Probably everyone, right? Everybody can relate to this question. Okay. So, according to the Holy Teacher, it goes, an ancient sage said once, when getting Tian Dao is made easy, practicing the Dao becomes difficult. When practicing the Dao is easy, attaining the Dao becomes difficult. Okay. So this is telling us that most people cannot start and finish as one. Okay, he uses here the term as oneness. Okay, meaning the fact that you cannot be consistent in your start and your finish. That's why you lax in your finish, but you're very dedicated in your start. Okay, so the methods ancient saints used to teach people were to have the awakened, enlightened people, that is, the awakened people, to enlighten the non-awakened, and to have the non-awakened follow or model after the awakened. Now, Tian Dao is made available to everyone because of the time that we live in right now. Okay, all right. but most people are so lost that few could model after the awakened. Okay. Thus, it is the leaders who bear the responsibility of awakening the others and the success or failure of, here you use the word altars, or it means temples. Okay. A bell, okay, the examples they use is this. A bell will not sound if it is not rung, obvious. And one will not awake to Tao if no one is there to awaken him. An ancient sage said, it is men who spread the Tao. Tao, or the 10 Tao, cannot spread itself among men. Okay, so that's the first paragraph. So basically it's saying this, okay. First of all, unlike, cultivating the Tao, you would think that you would like it to be like, when you join the Marines. In the Marines is what, when the what?
The few, the many, the proud.
Well, there's another one also. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going, right? Okay, so it just means the fact that no matter whatever situation, whatever, you still push on, right? That's the Marines, Okay, so in the same way, you should apply that to your cultivation as well. In other words, life will have its ups and downs. Regardless of its ups and downs, you gotta still push on. Okay, so, but here is saying that most people are not like that though. That's it. Let's face it, not all of us are Marines. We can't be Marines. Okay, so therefore, yes, we sometimes do get overwhelmed by the conditions of life. Okay, so, but the first paragraph is just trying to say that, yeah, we need to stay tough. Okay, now, here it mentions by the fact that in the past, the awakened people, those who have this Tao, try to awake or enlighten those who are not awake. And hopefully, the non-awake, after awakening, if they awake, that is, will be willing to follow the awakened ones. Okay, but the problem comes down to I guess, part of it has to do with our own karmas, whether we can be able to, first of all, get awakened or not. And number two is whether we can follow or not. There's two different things here. One is just being awakened and just being following. The awaken, in terms of our Tao, to awaken is, just to receive the Tao, etc. That's fine. But then to follow the awakened ones means to what? To really put yourself on the path of cultivation. But not all of us can do that sometimes. Because sometimes some of us just come and receive the Tao and they say, okay, bye-bye. Or, okay, I'll follow sometimes, I won't follow sometimes. Okay, so we have our situations, iffy situations sometimes. Okay, so, but that's why when the Buddha, when he was telling us about having to awaken other people, Buddha always tells us to what? To find these, yuan fu zi, the original souls. Okay, what that means is it's a term that applies to people who have a good foundation in the Tao, meaning the fact that they have a sincere belief in this Tao. Because if these people become awakened to the Tao, they will be very dedicated and committed to the Tao, to follow the Tao. Okay, whereas those who do not have the same foundation may not follow the same way. Sure, they may still be willing to receive the blessing and all that stuff, okay, but they will not necessarily have too much conviction in it. Okay, so, but anyway, so here he goes, and I continue on the second paragraph. Even the ancient Buddhists and mortals still need guidance from their masters. During our time, most are ordinaries and need more help. This is why all leaders in Ten Tao must set example for others so they can be touched. Usually the student have to come to learn from the master, now the master is going to the student. Okay. However, not even 1 in 10,000 can attain Tao without a teacher. Okay. This is why the initiators and guarantors, these are introducers and our guarantors, okay, of Ten Tao, are urged to dedicate themselves to teach and encourage those whom they brought into receiving the Tao. Okay. It is especially important to ask all to obey the following 16 sets of rules. This part is kind of important because in a way it lays out sort of like a guideline for our cultivation. Okay, the first is basically say, establish oneself, dedicate to one's mission, rid of hobbies. Here's really more like get rid of one's bad habits and addictions. Okay, commit no adultery, carry out our duties, obey heaven's mandate, establish firm will, rid of motley thoughts, or what we 杂念 means basically distracting thoughts. Okay, practice kung fu. Kung fu here really refers not the kung fu of martial arts, but the kung fu of what things that can help us maintain good health. Okay, because in fact the Buddha and saints have already taught us a couple times 2 different things. Okay,
Exercise.
yeah, exercise. Okay, yeah. Be thrifty. Offer incense to God, meaning the fact that you must what? Have some form of practice or routine to try to express our sincerity. Okay. Be a vegetarian. Cultivate virtues, rid all mistakes, repent, and search for the truth. Okay. So this is a general rule that if you follow that, if you're trying to cultivate, this is something that you can follow. Okay. Okay. So anyway, so it finishes off by saying, an elder said, "There's no peerage if one has no merits. Even though we are helping others outwardly to accumulate merits, in reality we are helping ourselves to attain Tao. This is why we must start and follow through all the way in practicing Tao until we finish." Okay, so anyway, time's up. But here, basically the takeaway from this is the fact that it is true that not everybody will always follow the Tao after they continue. Okay, and again, part of it is part of their foundation. But to try to compensate for the foundation, the answers remind us of saying that then the introducer and sponsors must make also a commitment to themselves. And that is basically to set a good example for yourself. So you, as introducer and sponsor, should cultivate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
so if
the
you don't,
takeaway. Yeah,
people
because if you
will
don't,
say, why should I cultivate? I got
Yeah.
3 churches. That's good enough.
yeah, right. Because after all, then the people you bring in will not have the foundation, because you yourself are not establishing a good foundation for yourself. Okay. So, but it is definitely true that there will be people, consequences, right? Okay. So, and then this in a way answers the question of why is it that sometimes when we ask for favors, everything's smooth, but sometimes things get worse. Things get worse. Because the fact that if you don't establish your foundation for yourself, cultivation, okay, then what happens? That all the bad karma or the debts, because you received the blessing, right? So we have the ability to transcend life and death, right? We don't come back. Well, if you don't come back, how are you going to pay your debts? So all the debts come now. Come now. So therefore, that's why it piles it on. It gets piled on.
Or basically with the conditions seems to
Allow,
materialize.
right? Oh, so anyway, excuse me. So that's why it's important for us to continue to cultivate. I'm losing my voice now. So, all right. So anyway, I wish to thank the grace of heaven and the virtue of our masters and predecessors and transmitters that I have this opportunity to present to you this questions and answers to the truth. Thank you very much.